You gotta have heart, miles and miles and miles of heart.
In 1970, Pat Shermock, who was a longtime volunteer for the Wisconsin Heart Association, did some fundraising for the organization, which included card parties, balloon sales, and teen dances. Needless to say, these events didn't make more than $100. So she gathered with other creative folks, including Fred Brandt, who outlined an evening of skits and songs, and in 1971, Heart-A-Rama was born.
You gotta have heart, miles and miles and miles of heart.
The community-run vaudeville variety show, held every May, has raised $1 million over the years and is now the hottest ticket in town.
The tickets are gone in January, and there are no more tickets. They're just plain gone.
The show gets underway promptly at 7:30, but no Heart-A-Rama can begin without an annual tradition, raffling off the best seat in the house.
Don't forget another thing that really took off, and that was the toilet seat.
Oh my gosh, talk about ways to earn
Who
money.
started that?
Jim Melberg.
Oh yeah, Jim Melberg.
It was in his play, in the skit. That was the end. That was the big joke.
It was about $10.
Yeah.
When did the price go up so high?
Once the places in Manitowoc, the businesses started competing against each other, then it went up.
Piggly Wiggly has one from, I don't know how many years now, but...
Piggly Wiggly has all of them.
It was 1984, and Jim Melberg persuaded Al Thielen to carry a suitcase with a toilet seat inside, run around the audience, and claim to be selling the best seat in the house.
Signed by the entire cast.
I got 1,300 over here.
Yeah, well, $3,500 pistol boots, ladies and gentlemen.
The audience bought it, literally. The first seat sold for a whopping $6.
We hit $1 million at the 30th year. And it just so happened that year the Bare Naked Ladies came out with that song, if I had $1 million, if I had $1 million.
If I had $1 million. The 30th anniversary $1 million millennium best seat in the house. Who will give me $100?
The best seat in the house has been known to sell for $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, even $4,000.
Other communities have heart balls, and they get all dressed up in their tuxes and their gowns, and they go. Manitowoc has Heart-A-Rama.
We make fun of ourselves. We make fun of the community. We make fun of the newspaper. We make fun of the politicians.
Kevin Crawford had a town, E-I-E-I-O.
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 Kevin Crawford had a town, E-I-E-I-O. And in his town they love to eat, E-I-E-I-O. With a Wendy's here, Fazoli's there, Chinatown egg roll hut. God, I'll have a wonton gut. Kevin Crawford had a town, E-I-E-I-O.
Justin Nichols, Mayor of the City of Manitowoc.
Greg Buckley, City Manager for the City of Two Rivers.
Well, we got trouble, my friends. Right here in River City.
Other than the Mariners Trail, this is probably one of the things that brings our communities together the most, huh?
It's a fantastic Manitowoc County tradition. Born at Jack's or Better, out on Rapids Road. Moved on up the road to Two Rivers. Made the successful transition. Not too many people got pulled over, and the tradition continues, celebrating, of course, 50 years this spring.
All while having fun.
Yeah, you imagine how many hot dogs that must be?
That's the cool thing about it is, they can joke about us and roundabouts in Manitowoc.
Roundabouts. I remember dancing as one of the Fraulines in front of the mountains here. The Grim Reaper with an Irish theme. I remember that's all seagulls. Always seagulls. Seagulls at the mall, seagulls everywhere.
Well, for the first how many years it was the mural building.
Yes.
And then they put me on a wrecking ball.
He came in like a wrecking ball.
to co-host the Heart-A-Rama News with Tina Prigge one year. It was in the advent of a recent election, so we were the fake news network, also known as the effin' news.
That's what makes Heart-A-Rama so unique is we always have a little local tie to it, so people from all around the county can laugh about everything. But the thing I love most is just the camaraderie. You know, actually being in the show,
yes,
working with you, working with, I mean, all the folks that are just amazing people.
Local luminaries on the stage dancing as condiments.
I think the fact that we can laugh at ourselves for a good cause, it just adds to the show. We're having so much fun raising money for such a great cause.
Well, you know, and the history, there's so many people that are veterans of the show, but so many great memories of people that have gone before the veterans of the show that even though you and I are relative newcomers, we know our legend and have just made this such a special event for the folks in this community.
Absolutely.
Behind us, you see a quilt that is made out of the shirts from Heart-A-Rama.
I did sweatshirts. I did, you know,
Is that selling sweatshirts?
Selling
so tell
sweatshirts.
people, like, how do you sell a sweatshirt?
Well, I never had to sell. We got people to sell them, but it was always a challenge to figure out, well, just how many we're going to sell. Is the pattern good enough to do it? How many?
Is the color of the shirt okay?
Is the color of the shirt okay? Do I want long sleeve? Do I want short sleeve? Do I do t-shirts? Do I do sweatshirts? I mean, there's just hundreds of things that you don't think about, that, you know, but that's all of Heart-A-Rama. I mean, that's why it takes so many people, is there's really hundreds of things you have to do to make it work. What are some of the funny things they sold? They sold three-handled cups one time, I think.
Yep.
They sold plastic cups. They sell, I think they tried to sell hats one time. They sold...
we all have this in our closet.
Yes,
you know?
yeah. It's a closet full of memorabilia.
Right.
Yeah.
Each year, over 250 people volunteer in so many ways. From on stage to backstage, to playing music, to selling beer and food, to filling popcorn tins, to face painting, to selling sweatshirts and t-shirts, to show planning. The list goes on and on. Heart-A-Rama wouldn't be here without all those volunteers.
I've been with Heart-A-Rama. This year will be our 30th year. Started in 1990 and started as a beer salesman and talked to one of the founding members, Ron Rasmussen, who was a good friend of mine, and just kind of started a conversation at the bowling alley one night. What kind of beer do you use for Heart-A-Rama? And what do they do for you? And I just got a job as a beer distributor, and Ron and I got talking, and the next thing you know, there I was, year one, humping half barrels across the street at Jack's or Better. It's been 30 years. Got involved in the House Committee quite a few years ago, and as chairman of the House Committee, and no regrets. It's been nothing but a great time, and sure been a fun 30 years.
Actually, our whole family's been involved with Heart-A-Rama. I am also a co-chair for the House Committee, so we do all the cleanup, setup. We get all the volunteers for the bartenders, the servers. So it's kind of a big production, but since Little On, our kids would come and help clean up the last night of the show and do things like that. So it's been a family thing, so we've always enjoyed it.
And I would just like to compliment Rob and Denise here that I never had to worry about or think about where's the beer coming from, what's going to go on, who's going to set this up. It was always done when we got there.
Remember that first year when we made just over $1,300? Well, since then, Heart-A-Rama raised more and more for the American Heart Association, including a percentage each year used to donate AEDs.
Rick, how many years did you do Heart-A-Rama?
I think we retired on the 40th anniversary, and I think I started on the third one, which would have been like 1974, something like that.
Welcome to the Family Feud! And tonight's show is sure to be a dandy. We surveyed 116 locals last summer at Farm Progress Days out at the Seymour Farm.
So what roles did you have in Heart-A-Rama? I mean, you were in the show.
Yes, I was. I think my first melodrama was actually Hoof-Hearted. And
a classic.
It was a classic. I was in some of the tweeners that year as well. Actually, back in those days, you were in quite a few things. The casts weren't as big as they are now. I wrote and became a director of the melodrama for many years. And
you had a special style of writing for the melodramas. How did you write those?
They were often in rhyme. Right, we would do pantomimes and the scripts would rhyme.
Stroll, with a passion for dough, longs to be top brewing czar. Runs a tiny pub not far from here and lives above his bar. He's an evil sort of man, you see. His heart is black as coal. He plans to wed fair Juliet and rob her of her dough. And I would write a poem every night for the cast as well to inspire them for the great cause that Heart-A-Rama was.
And that was a Heart-A-Rama tradition that you started, was a poem every night before the show started.
Right, and it was usually made up on the things that screwed up by the cast the night before. Talk about you. You were a producer for many years.
Well, I started in the show. I remember the first year I did Heart-A-Rama was Heart-A-Rama Goes to England. And I played Lady Di, and that was great. And then proceeded to be in the show. One of my favorite roles, of course, was the dog that peed on the audience.
Right.
You know, Heart-A-Rama actually has its own kennel club. So if you were lucky enough to play a dog in Heart-A-Rama, you then got to be in the Heart-A-Rama Kennel Club.
You sure are looking good. You're everything that a big bad wolf would want. Listen to me, Little Red Riding Hood. I don't think little big girls should go walking in these spooky old woods alone.
Huh? Let's see what all these losers have been up to since high school.
And that's actually how we met.
Right.
Was writing together at
and
the
we ended up
Shermat's
getting
house.
married because of Heart-A-Rama, actually. It was...
Supposed to be getting married today.
You know, that explains a lot. I thought you looked a little overdressed for pulling the slots. Say, what time is it anyway?
Oh, I have this funny feeling I lost track of time and I missed my own wedding.
Hi there, pussycat. You sure are a pretty thing.
And then I became producer, and I was producer for 15 years. And that's a really interesting experience to be producer of Heart-A-Rama.
We are naked and we dance.
I think the 50th year, we hope to, hit $3 million, which is an incredible amount of money made for heart research and education.
We have a very special place in our hearts for Heart-A-Rama. In 2007, we had Miss Raina, and when she was about 4.5, we found out that she had a critical congenital heart defect.
It was not, my lungs weren't connected to my heart and
your pulmonary veins.
Yeah, and it's called total anomalous pulmonary venous return, and I had an ASD, and the
what is an ASD?
Is the hole in my heart, and so my heart wasn't connected to my pulmonary veins.
Every 1 in 100 children is born with a congenital heart defect. Some are critical, some are not. Raina just happened to be very, very lucky and survive hers to 4.5 years of age. Once we made our way down to Milwaukee to Children's Hospital, we found out about something called a pulse oximetry test. And I know a lot of people in this day and age have ultrasounds and they have all of those things. Some of those congenital heart defects are found on ultrasounds. The kind Raina had a lot of times is not. And the only way to detect her kind, not only way, but one of the ways that would have alerted us that was an issue when she was born was a pulse oximetry test. And we've all been to the doctor and you have it put on your finger and tells you your oxygen level in your blood. So we worked diligently with the American Heart Association, and we met with our, senators, congressmen. I said, we need to make this happen. I said, because no family should have to do this.
On October 17, 2011, I went into open heart surgery. It took 7.5 hours.
We, Raina lived through all of that. We worked with the Heart Association, and Senator Lightbaum was a huge, huge advocate. He knocked on all the congressmen's doors. Representative Tittle was huge, helping us, and it became part of the newborn screening. The American Heart Association and Heart-A-Rama is doing great things to support both communities of heart patients. We are so, so fortunate to live in a community that has an organization like Heart-A-Rama, where people volunteer countless, countless hours to make such a huge impact.
I went up and I sang on stage with a group of other heart kids, and that was the year that I really connected with everybody there, and I got to know everybody that did the show. They were all really nice people, and it was really fun. Every heart kid there got to go up and dance on the stage with everybody who performed in the show for the end of the show. I found it funny the way how some boys would dress up as girls and stuff. I don't know, at my age I guess I just found that really funny.
The fact that the people at Heart-A-Rama wanted to make it a family thing and make it include their siblings was really, really important to the siblings, but to these kids as well, because sometimes it's hard to just be with us and they're scared and you're scared and the kids back home are scared, and so we got to do something fun and exciting.
Yeah, it was really an experience. I will never forget that.
It's what you stood in line to see. We are family.
think I'm gonna have to really go with the audience on this one.
Stan, we're talking about Heart-A-Rama today.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
How many years are you involved?
Well, if I count right, 22 years elapsed with a year off in between, which was one of the dumbest years of my life.
Because
when you
missed
realize
it.
what you miss.
Right.
She's a pretty girl in the mirror there. Who can that pretty girl be? Such a pretty face, such a pretty dress, such a pretty smile, such a pretty me.
The how did things get started is rooted in my home. It was that first meeting happened in the kitchen at my mom and dad's house on 9th Street in Manitowoc, and it was a result of Pat Shermock and Charlie LaFleur and Fred Brandt getting together and saying, we got to do something. We've tried to do all these other things, but we got to try something new to raise money for the Heart Association. So the real important thing is that it's so much fun. You know, gosh, we had a really good time on that stage.
And I was just remembering when I was producer, my motto was shameless exploitation for the good of others.
Which is really kind of neat. And when you
it
say it
is.
to people, they kind of think, well, what are you talking about? But then you explain what you did, and boy, nothing was below us.
K-O, K-K-O, K-O-H-L-S. We won. K-O, K-O-H-L-S. We need it. Gotta get it, gotta get it, gotta get it. Gotta get it, gotta get it, gotta get it.
So what was your favorite role?
Well, it was being the ballerina, which was.
Now, those of you watching, imagine this person in a pink tutu and tights and ballerina top, right?
Yeah, well, you sure, and made up to look pretty.
If I came back from history, a little ballerina me. Happy all day long. And this will be my song. First position, second position, show my ever best. First position, second position, show my ever best. First position, second position, show my
Jim Melberg was the one that originally had that role, and to watch him on stage, and that's another thing that Heart-A-Rama means to me, is all those people that you've experienced on the stage with, who no longer are with us for whatever reason, some really tremendous actors, singers, performers, just that was fun. But to see someone like Jim Melberg and be able to step into where he was, boy, those are big shoes to fill, but the screams of laughter when you run out on stage, a big guy like me dressed up in a tutu.
Right, and that was part of the classic tweener of Heart-A-Rama that comes back every anniversary year. If I came back from history.
From history.
And it's a classic, and the audience waits for that tweener to come back every anniversary year.
And they're on their feet at the end, just screaming.
From history, someone else I'd rather be. If I came back from history, a sergeant, major, me, happy all day long. And this would be my song. Left, right, swing those, way off. Left, right, swing those, way off.
But who are some of the favorite characters that you remember from Heart-A-Rama
Well,
past?
it's always
some of those funny things or well done sort of characters.
I always love the villain. I'm a real traditionalist for Heart-A-Rama. I love the villain, and I love the villain in the black cape being the villain.
Man at the one, comfy. Nothing can stop me now. 100 inmates were serving, and the top 3 answers are on the board. Name your favorite day. Put on the line is my already well-established rear end. Get the deed, Mel.
No, anything but that.
Anything? Hey, it's either the bar or the broad.
Yeah, that's good, Baroness.
Come soon. I will tell you how we are going to accomplish our evil deed.
Of course, Doug Molzon was one of my favorite characters.
Serious situation? Get the snacks. Can you sing? Sing? If I came back from history, someone else I'd rather see. If I came back from history, a Kenneth Clare Lee. Happy all day long. And this would be my song. Both you, sir, up and down the court. Both you, sir, up and down the court.
Over the years, we have had some amazing characters. Unfortunately, a lot of them are not around anymore. But when you think of Jim and Mary Melberg, some of the skits they did, that I still can't hear the song Islands in the Stream without thinking of them doing Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton. Doing the Packers, and I mean there were so many wonderful character shots. Brad and doing some of his drag shows and stuff.
You could have the best jokes in the world, and they wouldn't be Woody and Willie, and they wouldn't be RJ and
And we have had, the mayors, and we've had the city attorney on the show, and the high school principals, and I mean, it's just, they're well-known people in town, and they enjoy being a part of the show because of just what it is.
And what it does for the community, I believe.
Right.
As well.
The music really was just started out at the very beginning with just a piano. Then it was a piano and drums, and for a long time, Pit Boys didn't start. It was like a different group of people every night, whoever could kind of stay and wanted to perform that night. And then at the end of the night, they would play a few tunes, and people who were there would get up and sing, and it was very, very loose.
Hi, that's Jerry Krause.
And that's Bob Pronto.
And who's him?
This is Pete Hunzick.
And
we are the Pit Boys.
That's right, we're the anchor to the show.
Yes. And how long have you been, Bob? You're like the oldest one as far as...
I'm not the oldest.
Well, I mean, in the band.
I've been with the band for 32 years, I believe. Anyway, we have a great time entertaining the people that come to Heart-A-Rama. It's a good cause, and I really think that the band does a big part of keeping the flow with music, with the skits, and before, now, and after, and the halftime show. And some of the people that come to Heart-A-Rama now have not ever experienced Jacks Are Better, but back when it was in the beginning days, the first many years of Heart-A-Rama, the band played after the show, and we would put on quite a show after the original show was over.
The year that you came in, Biff Hansen was singing, right?
Right, Biff was in the band, Tommy was in the band, Steve
Heisey was playing bass.
Yeah, Steve Heisey was on bass. Dave Heisey sat in. I could go on. It's just
we should. Because Steve Klein came and played
Dave Merzen was in there one year, and Rod Shire helped out back then, which he's also in it more now.
Derek Warner's been in and playing.
Tom Shermock.
Several keyboard players.
So after years of just electric guitars, it was kind of fun to get Pete on board with his acoustic guitar. And that whole style of music was foreign to us because we never really played a lot of that. And in the last year, we had Jim Van Lanen sitting in.
Yeah, violin. So those skits, when they did like the condiments, we'd always play like a medley of songs
for the ketchup bottle and the
ketchup.
Mustard.
Yeah. That every 5 years is always kind of fun. When I came back from history.
I know Heart-A-Rama has used that one several times throughout, the 30 years that we've been involved. But it's just so much fun, not only watching the actors up on stage, but watching the people in the audience as the progression of that skit goes along. It just brings me to tears all the time. It's just a funny skit, and it doesn't matter how many times they've used it, it's always been a hit with Heart-A-Rama.
Usually we do it during an anniversary year, and the last anniversary year we toyed with the audience throughout the whole show. Somebody came up that would be in if I came back from history, and Biff kept kicking them off the stage. No, we're not doing it this year. No, we're not doing it this year. And so everybody came up on stage to do the closing number, so the audience thought we weren't going to do it, and all of a sudden Biff, no, forget it, I cannot. My Catholic guild will not let me not do the skit, and they came up and went through it and everything, but the whole audience, they were just toyed with throughout the whole show. That was really fun.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Also, the energy that this show brings, it's amazing.
In the year 2000, Heart-A-Rama reached the $1 million mark. In 2009, Heart-A-Rama reached the $2 million mark in fundraising. And as of 2019, Heart-A-Rama has raised just over $2.9 million.
Great organization.
It is. And we just have to thank everyone that's, from the people 50 years ago that said, well, why don't we have a show?
Kathy Sturzel, Joan Dram.
Mike Sherman.
Laura Mathis.
Will Mathis, also known as Wolfie.
Sally Rasmussen.
Dolly Stokes.
There was a small group of us invited to a dinner at John and Joan Dram's house. We were not told there was going to be a project, but they didn't know what it was. Fred Brandt was there. Fred Brandt came up with the idea of little skits. That's how it started. And then we had to have many meetings to decide who was on what committee, when we were going to have it, how we were going to have it, where it was going to be, how much the tickets would be, who was going to sell the tickets.
Charlie LaFleur and Pat and I had lunch and talked about stuff. I thought I was just there to listen, but at the end, we somehow planned a meeting at my house, yes. And that was the meeting you're talking about, I think.
And Fred Brandt said, if I can raise $1,000, I will quit acting.
Yes.
What I remember is going around to the different bars, selling these tickets for $1 a piece.
We were out every weekend for the weekends before, after the bars closed, and Pat is selling tickets to all of these people that came from the bars to the restaurants to have that late night meal.
Yeah, we found 2 pantomimes in the very beginning, Trouble in the Cellar and The Lighthouse Keeper's Daughter. Yeah. And those were the best because nobody had to memorize lines. And the sight gag of going down the steps, we had something with blocking off so you could see their heads going down just like
All
this.
we were doing was getting Laura on
steps. It was such a great sight gag for us.
A couple of the ground rules. If you need popcorn, just raise your tray up in the air and the popcorn fairies will come and fill it.
Yes, and that goes with your beverages too. If you need a cold beverage, just hold your pitcher up in the air and miraculously someone will bring you a cold frothy brew to drink.
I called Miro Aluminum and asked them if they had any aluminum foil kind of dishes to serve things in, heart-shaped. No, absolutely not, but we'll give you a company that does. I called the company, they donated them all.
But after that first year, it really did take off pretty fast.
Yeah.
You know, in the years after that, selling tickets and so forth was a breeze. You didn't have to go to the taverns anymore.
No, you had to get in line at 7 o'clock in the morning.
John West was my husband's boss, and Ray went and asked him for things, and he said, whatever you need, Ray. Well, we needed programs. Who was going to print them for us? We didn't know. You know, what are you going to... I'll find out. The Manitowoc company printed them, but they didn't staple them. So, did you come to my house and staple, Dolly?
Yes, I did.
We stapled hundreds of programs.
I didn't know that either.
Yes.
Yeah. And Joni, do you remember with the first curtain, we did it on sheets?
Yes.
And I remember that, I remember in particular, all of the people that advertised, we did something, a picture or a little sketch or something. Right. Finally, we got, I think, the material from Doll Canvas, I think it was. And for the first good cut.
You got it from Leon Sigmund.
From where?
Leon Sigmund.
Oh, that's right. We got it from Leon Sigmund.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I went in and I said, wouldn't you like to donate to Heart-A-Rama? And he said, sure. What do you want? And I said, I need 25 yards of material. He said, pick out what you want. There was always a hero and a heroine and a villain and the sweet young thing that the villain was trying to get at. So then we'd ask the audience to say boo when the villain came out and aw when the sweet young thing came out.
I don't remember the whole storyline, but all I remember is that I was in a bathing suit and I jumped out and, in this bathing suit, all this debris, all this construction.
The audience loved anything that you threw a local name in.
Yes.
If you did an old skit that was written someplace and they talked about a little town called Maryville, we changed it to Shoto, and people,
And it also involved the community. We picked on the mayor, we picked on the school board. You know, we talked a lot about people in Manitowoc.
And then there was face painting and head painting before the production started. Big hearts on bald heads and faces all painted up for
mustaches.
And then we sold tablets and sweatshirts and t-shirts and candy and heart dogs at halftime. Flowers.
It was funny because if you bought 2 of them, they were like 35 cents a piece or 2 for $1.
Yes, right, yeah. And remember the belly dancers?
Ride the real cool.
So why did you want to do it? I wanted to join because I heard about when Grandpa died, and then I realized that when my dad had a heart attack, it really hit me.
You know, the 3rd generation of somebody from the Rasmussen family being involved in this.
Yeah.
That says a lot for the spirit of what this thing is.
Yeah. This is 50 years. Right. And we are celebrating this wonderful gift that we all came together on 50 years.
50 years is a big deal. There are tons and tons of people to thank. As we said, there's over 200 volunteers every year.
Where we keep 10% of everything we raise for local funds. And so we've given away AEDs to any nonprofit organizations throughout the county. In fact, I know our Heart Association person said Manitowoc County has more AEDs per capita than any other county in the state of Wisconsin.
So the American Heart Association has been in our communities since 1924, actually, creating a world of healthier, happier lives by sharing heart health and education. We are honored to be able to work beside Heart-A-Rama here in the Manitowoc Two Rivers community.
It's just an organization that you kind of give your heart to.
Gotta have heart.
Gotta have heart.
You gotta have heart.
I am Barb Pankratz.
And I'm Dan Pankratz. We've been married 53 years. We've been going to Heart-A-Rama for most of those years. We didn't get to the very first one, but some of our friends and relatives told us about it. So we decided to go and see what it was all about. We had a great time. We found out what a wonderful group it was and what they were doing for the Heart Association. So we decided it would be a wonderful thing for us to support. Plus, we got to meet a lot of nice people. We got to enjoy a lot of the great shows.
And also we just love the people and we love the camaraderie when we stand in line, like early in the morning, and I mean early with my snowmobile suit on at Jacks Are Better. When I would stand out there and be the first one in line, I'm always the first one that I get a front row seat every time.
We've always had so much fun watching the different skits. Several times the skits are repeated over the years, and many times it's great to see them again. It's a little bit like going back on some of the old TV reruns that you enjoy seeing over and over. Some of the people you remember from way back, the Melbergs, the wonderful job that they did. Doug Malzahn, when he would go into his stuff, he knew what it was going to be, and he cracked you up every time. When Bartlemy would do some of his routines, when he dressed as a soldier and they were doing the marching routines, some of those were just classics that would go on forever.
And
of those people have been in it for so many years, you have to give them so much credit to the amount of time, not only for rehearsing, but the amount of time that they did spending doing the shows every night. That's just fantastic, the amount of work that they put into it.
And I like the variation of the skits, and of course there's always a few that stand out. I like the belly one, especially. I think that one was hilarious.
The MCs have always been very, very good. Biff is something else. That guy is just a super talent.
Get to be the captain. Yeah, Mike Sherlock asked me. Hello? In the whole history of maritime events, the only thing women have to do with maritime is they name big boats after them.
Oh, mine's bigger. Mama likes me better.
What are you doing up here?
I'm starting to understand why they didn't have her standing up during tryouts this year. I don't think this is going to work. I think I could get used to this.
And it makes us very, very proud to tell people what Heart-A-Rama does for the Heart Association.
2 nights in 1971 grew to 7 from 1977 to 1986, 8 nights from 1987 to 1994, 9 nights between 1995 and 2007, and it's 6 nights a year since 2010.
Plumber, sir. Plumber? I didn't ask for a plumber. Who is this?
Telegram.
First of all, young lady, my name is Puffin.
I can pee on that.
Celebrating 50 years of Heart-A-Rama with the Pit Boys.
You gotta have heart.
You gotta have heart.
You gotta have heart.
You gotta have heart.
You gotta have heart. Miles of heart. Oh, it's fine to be a genius, of course, but keep that whole horse before the cart. First you gotta have heart.
You gotta have heart.
You gotta have heart.
Heart of my heart brings back those memories.
You gotta have heart. Mwah.
Hit it! That's what I'm talking about.
Wait! Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
this place. That'll rock this place. Rock this place. Rock this place. Rock this
From the beginning.
Come on, ladies. You get all tingly in your naughty parts when Stosh comes on stage, and so